Hey YouTube, what's up? Welcome, guys, girls, if there are any girls here, I don't know, maybe. Welcome to a further episode of my WPL C34 build and upgrade series. Today, no build, no upgrade. I want to talk a little bit about the axle housings and gearing and axles and blocking gears, because it seems many people seem to have problems with blocking gears, not smoothly running gears in the WPL C34 axles. Here you can see the two cheap WPL axles that are now sold for some weeks from Banggood. Those are identical. They are only sold as axle housings, and those are identical to the original WPL C34KM Metal Edition axle housings. This is my original WPL C34 axle housing. If you've seen my previous episodes, you know I removed the paint and painted it in black, and actually I'm still using different axles in my C34, but I received those new extremely cheap axle housings from Banggood and found that they are identical to the WPL C34 axle housings. I bought two front axles, as you have seen, and I found that the silver ones have been totally painted with clear coat and do not fit very well, and the black one has not been painted inside and fits much better. And I assembled those axles. For assembling the axles, you need, additionally to the axle housings and the steering knuckles you get for the cheap money, you need of course a shaft, and you need those two gears, and you need 4 6 by 10 by 3 millimeter ball bearings, and you will need, how many of those? 6 3 by 6 by 2 millimeter ball bearings. And for the steering knuckles, that's probably the most difficult part, you will need this kind of bushing, or they are outer diameter 3.5 millimeter, inner diameter 2.5 millimeter, and you will need 4 of those, 2 for each steering knuckle, and you will need 4 2.5 millimeter, 5 to 6 millimeter screws, machine thread screws, and you will need either those new fantastic universal joints that come with the C34KM, or of course you could also use the old steerings with the dog bone style steerings. So if you did already buy metal upgrades before the C34 has been released, you probably will have bought those kind of steerings. So I fully built the axles, and remember, the black axle has not been painted by WPL inside, and the silver axle has been painted with clear coat also inside, because the black axle has been painted already assembled, only the red front differential cover has not been mounted when painting. And now check this out. I did not make any modification to the black axle, but a very little one to the front diff cover, and check this out, how smooth this axle is running. All screws are firmly fixed, all nut screws are fixed, but no lubrication, nothing, and check out how smooth this axle is running without any modification, but the very little one on the red diff cover. And now check the silver axle housing that has been painted by WPL with clear coat inside and outside, and can you see the gears are blocking. I can't move it. I also mounted and fixed the screws firmly, and the axle or the gears and the drive shaft and the universal joints do already block. I can turn them with a lot of force. So this indicates that the painting of the axle housings, and now we are not talking about the diff covers, we are only talking about the two halves. We are only talking about the two halves of the axle housings. Already this makes the shafts and the gear to stop and the ball bearings. So there must already be a problem only in the two halves caused by the paint, probably. Before we take a closer look to the silver axle housings and search for the problems, I want to show you the slight modification I made with the red diff cover of the black axle housings. The diff covers, the red ones that come with the silver and the black axle housing, they are identical, and both of them are painted with thick red paint, and this paint is also on the small pins that have to be inserted here on the axle housings. Those pins with the paint will cause problems because the paint will not let them insert, so I simply scratched the paint off. As you can see here, I scratched the paint off simply using a blade. And to show you that that's true, you see here paint scratched off, no problem inserting the diff cover, and that's the diff cover of the silver axle housing, and I did not yet remove the paint from the pins, and as you can see here I cannot insert it, so you will have to remove the paint. What's an easy job to insert to make the diff covers sit firmly on the axle housings. After removing the paint, no problem at all. And now let's search for a reason why this shaft blocks. I fixed the screws, those screws fixing the two halves of the axle housings together, or mounting them together firmly, as I did here in the black one, and this causes the shafts and the gears to block. It's hardly possible to move those. There's a lot of resistance, and now I loosen those screws, actually only on one side a little bit, and check this out. Now it's running smoothly. I will loosen all four screws a little bit, and now it's running absolutely freely, as those gears and shafts do. So the reason must be somewhere inside, and probably the reason for the blocking of those shafts is the paint, as always. So I will check now where the problem is located. So guys, check this out. Seems I have a snake in my house. Seems like the skin of the snake, but I do not have a snake in my apartment. This is the paint, or part of the paint I removed from the axles. Unbelievable. You see, that's a really thick skin. I removed the paint from the two axle housings and from the steering knuckles and from those counterparts. I did not remove the paint from the diff covers now. Not yet, because I want to test if the paint is also a problem inside of the diff cover with the bearing. So I started and tried to scratch the paint off with a blade, but then I stopped it and put the axle housings for some hours into acetone. And this made it easy to remove the paint. You could peel it off like a skin. It made bubbles. So for sure not healthy. I used a well aerated area and put them aside a window. But it worked very well with the paint of with a clear paint, the clear coat of the axle housings. So what now? Now let's check if removing the paint, that's only a part of this paint, solved the problems with the axle housing and the shaft not spinning freely. So let's mount it again. Come on. Okay, now it closes much easier. And now I will mount the axle housing halves and fix them. Let's see if this gives any difference or makes any difference to So now it's mounted loosely and everything spins freely, perfectly, and now I will mount the axle housings quite firmly, as I would do normally. And still, check this out, free spinning, free spinning. So the paint was the reason for the shaft not to spin freely. So I can recommend to anyone remove the paint. So in the freely moving shaft inside the two halves of the axle housings, now let's try to mount the diff covers and the gear and see if there's still a problem with blocking gears. So I will take the two diff covers. I did only remove the paint from the pins of the diff cover with the blade, otherwise I couldn't insert it, and I use the red diff cover where I did already remove the paint of those pins. And gear, ball bearing, let's insert it and mount it. Come on. Okay. And the second diff cover. And still spinning freely, and now let's insert the screws and fix it. I assume the paint will also make problems with the gears inside now, but we will see. So everything's mounted firmly now, and now let's see if the gears block. No, not at all, not at all. Let's insert a ball bearing here, a slightly larger one with 2.5 millimeters. No, the gears are spinning absolutely freely. So in my case, in this diff cover, the paint is not a problem inside here. But we will make a test. If this could be a problem, I will take a larger ball bearing, because I assumed this will be a problem now too, but it's not at all. Check this. Without light. It's spinning freely and perfectly. Okay. Okay guys, I had good luck. In my case, in my diff cover, the paint did not make any problem inside here, but I want to verify this. So I will take, if this could be a problem, a different ball bearing now. I will take this ball bearing, come out. This is a 2.5 millimeter ball bearing. Maybe you can see the difference here. The ball bearings you get with the WPL axles and with the WPL trucks are 6 millimeter outer diameter, 3 millimeter inner diameter, and 2 millimeter height. And on the left side here, that's a ball bearing with 6 by 3 and 2.5. So if I will insert this now with the gear, this could probably or should make a problem, and the gear should block. And this would be a verification or a proof that if the ball bearing cannot insert all the way into this bucket or bag or however this is called, that could be a reason for blocking of the gears. So now let's try it with the other ball bearing with 2.5 millimeter of height. Okay, I do already feel the problem. Come on. No, not at all. So let's mount this too with 2.5 millimeter. Okay, finished. And you see the diff cover is not able to close fully and the gears are totally blocking. So the larger the ball bearing with 2.5 millimeter of height causes the blocking of the gears. Come on. If I loosen the screws, it should work again. So if the diff cover is only loosely mounted, this works. So that's a proof that this area could make problems too if the ball bearing cannot insert totally, and this could cause a blocking of the gears too. In my case, I had good luck. It does not block, but I will remove the paint anyway. So you should, if you have this blocking of the gears, you should clean up this area and check if the ball bearing can insert totally. And if that's the fact and there's still a blocking of those gears, I thought maybe most of you probably do have some old WPL gears, plastic gears, and those do not come with ball bearings, they come with those bushings. They are out of plastic. So I thought a further possibility to solve this problem, okay, you would need to use a bushing instead of a ball bearing. Take one of those plastic bushings coming with the WPL trucks and put it on sandpaper, sand a little bit of the surface off so that the height of the bushing is not 2 millimeter anymore. It's also 2 millimeter, but only 1.8, 1.7, whatever you need, and insert it, and this could maybe help with blocking gears too. In my case, I do not have those problems anymore, even with paint not removed. I don't know how much paint there is inside, Anyway, I will remove the paint now. I put the diff covers into acetone and remove the paint from the silver cover, and try to remove the paint from the red covers too, but as I do already know, the red paint probably will not peel off after being soaked in acetone or alcohol or brake fluid or whatever, so I would have to scratch off the paint. Check this out, guys. I've put the 3 diff covers for about 2 hours into acetone, and even the red paint has been removed. It came off even easier than the clear coat of the other side of the diff covers. This was not the case in other diff covers, red diff covers I did already remove the paint from other models. So this was a big surprise for me now. I thought the red paint won't come off, but it came off extremely easy. The only thing is there's still a little bit of red paint in those small holes. Perfect. So let's see what we can do now. Probably everything mounts much easier now. So let's mount the silver diff cover. This fits perfectly now. And let's mount the gear with a 2mm ball bearing. Come on. Perfect. Smooth fit. Okay, diff covers mounted firmly and still extremely smooth run, no blocking at all, and still no shim needed. Let's insert the second ball bearing on the other side, the counterpart. Perfect. Let's mount the drive shaft. Need a M3 nut screw for this. So 1 second. Highly recommend to use different nut screws than those coming with the WPL C34, which are extremely short. Where do we have one of those? Those are the ones, the tiny ones coming with the C34. I don't know why they are so short, and I will use larger ones that sit for sure better. And you know of the problems of nut screws. If you destroy it and it sits inside, it will be a big problem. Oh, that's the wrong driver. Okay. Come on. Okay. So, check this out. No play at all. Perfectly smooth running gears. They need to be greased, so I won't use the axle that way, but it's not greased now, and of course I will grease it. Wow! Can you remember how this axle behaved in the beginning? Let's mount the steering knuckles too. Come on. Okay. 1, 2. When mounting the steering knuckles, you should also use blue Loctite for this. I only do it for presenting purposes now and won't use Loctite. I will probably disassemble this axle again. Come on. Come on. And the second steering knuckle of the silver axle housing is here. One of those bushings. There's the screw. I still use the Phillips head screws that come with all those axles here, but finally I will change to hex hardware. So, come on, everything in front of camera. So that's it. And check this out, guys. A perfectly smooth running axle that blocked in the beginning. And let's also mount the black one again. I did not have to remove the paint in the black one, as I told you in the beginning, because the axle did already arrive closed. So this diff cover was mounted on this side and it was painted that way, so there is nearly no paint inside. And you see even the silver rings here. The Phillips head screws have been mounted, so this axle housing, the black one, has been painted closed, but it was much better because it avoids so many problems. So of course you should also grease those gears before using them, but I will not use the axles now. I only want to show you how this works. And I think I made a mistake. With the silver axles housing or steering knuckle. But first let's finish the black axle housing. So, nicely closed. Here we can do a little bit more. Nicely closed and perfectly smooth running axle. And what did I do here? I have two bearings here. Two of the large 6x10 by 3mm bearings, because I forgot to insert them in this knuckle. So let's do it. I want to show you two perfectly working axle housings, and don't forget, they will even run smoother when they have been greased. And now come on. What's the problem here now? The bearing is not inserted totally. So now such a ball bearing puller or pusher is very helpful. Here, as already mentioned, use blue Loctite. And the silver axle housing, perfectly smooth running. I'm really happy. So guys, final conclusion. I hope this video helps some of you, because I know many of you do have problems with the WPL C34 axle housings and the gears. That's my original axle housing. It did not close at all too, and it was horrible. I removed the paint, a lot of work. from the axle housing, but this axle housing was not painted like this one, so it was not painted closed, it was painted open, and the black paint was everywhere inside. But now I don't have a shaft inside now, and steering knuckles, it works perfectly too, but check those out. And what is my advice? My advice is, if you have problems with blocking gears, try to remove the paint. Try to remove the paint on the important side. So the silver axle housings, they are painted with clear coat. Check this, they are painted with a lot of clear coat. So try to scratch or remove it otherwise with some, like I did, acetone or brake fluid or whatever we want to try. Remove the paint at least on the positions where metal comes to metal and where the ball bearings sit. And this should make the shaft move freely, as this one does, and the gears. So if those gears still block, try to remove the paint inside here. If there is paint, this should work. Try to push the bearing inside as far as possible. And if this still does not help, I do have 3 of those WPL C34 front axle housings now. If this still does not help, then maybe, because you cannot get smaller ball bearings than 2mm by 3x6, maybe you could try one of those 3x6 by 2mm plastic bushings that come with WPL trucks, and sand some parts of a millimeter of those, and maybe your gears won't block then. But because I did not see any of those axles that have those problems, I can't really tell what the problem could be. I do not have this problem. So that's it, that's the finish. I hope I could help you. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.